following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Baca along with Brad Feldman from the Bismarck Bobcats. And Brad, no hockey this weekend. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it has been a crazy, awesome, great first half of the season so far.
Yeah, it has been. You know, I looked at the standings. You know, it's been a long time since I've seen that kind of a record on a Bobcat team, but they've been really fun to watch. When I talk to people at my kids' hockey games, hockey practices, they're like they love coming to the games because the talent level's there, and it's just fun to watch that kind of level, that kind of talent.
Okay, so a little recap. Watertown last weekend. So it was kind of a home and home back-to-back weekends. Took 3 out of 4 from Watertown, which was pretty good. And, you know, that's a scrappy little team. They just, for a first year, new addition to the league, they're tough. I mean, there's no quit in that game.
No, you know, we played them our first Central Division games of the season, and we put it to them pretty hard. And I had a group of Watertown kids and families here this last weekend. I was talking to them, and the one game that we lost the last 2 weeks to Watertown, I was at in Watertown, so I'm kind of taking the blame for that one.
Yeah, you're not allowed to go to games anymore.
No, that's what I was told by the coaches, so that's okay. I did tell the Watertown fans, I said, your team's getting better. Like, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with here in a couple of years. They're figuring things out. So, you know, when you're a new team, there's going to be a struggle, you know, just to get up to that level. But they're figuring it out pretty quick, and they're going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, another addition to the league, great addition there. And then, you know, I kind of want to do a little recap of the first half of the season. When you come out of the showcase with a positive record, let alone that doesn't happen for the Bobcats. For some reason, the showcase has not been a good measuring stick for the Bobcats. But this year, right out of the gate, showcase went well, and it was off to the races.
It really was. It really was. And I think we got off to the hottest start we've had in franchise history. And that just kind of set us up for the success we're having now. You know, I look at the standings right now. We're 24-3, 0-1. And, you know, I think the talent level, like I keep going back to the talent level. The coaches, Garrett's doing a great job. Alec, his assistant coach, doing a great job getting these boys ready every single week. And you see it in the talent level when you have Chase Reed getting called up to the OHL and you got Tristan Trevino getting called up to the USHL. We obviously have the talent level on this team that can play at that next level.
And a lot of that really starts with the recruiting. I mean, the recruiting the Bobcats do is out of this world. Yeah,
you know, give Nico Kapitanovich and his staff all the credit, right? Like, Lane said to me this last summer, you know, I'm in Hudson, Wisconsin with him at main camp. He put this team together along with Nico, and Garrett's getting the opportunity to coach it. And, yeah, well, I mean, they're going all over the place. And I hear the conversations in the office, you know, when they're talking about different players. It's like, how do you guys know all these people? But they do, because they have deep connections and deep relationships with people.
Well, it's been exciting this first half, and there's a little, I don't want to say trepidation, but it's like, okay, we've been so successful. The question is not when we're going to level off a little bit, because, you know, it's a long season. There's lulls. We haven't had that yet. We've fought through the injury bug a little bit, and this team's just steamrolling. But the second half of the schedule, the second half of the season gets a little harder, doesn't it?
It does, you know, and that's the thing. This Christmas break couldn't come at a better time. You know, we played shorthanded last weekend with 15 guys. You know, we didn't have a full line of forwards or D, so it's nice to get that break so these guys can get healthy. And, you know, the second half of the season, we're going to see a lot of Austin, Minot, Aberdeen. We haven't even seen St. Cloud yet this year, so the schedule's going to get tough here because we're going to be playing nothing but playoff teams the second half of the season. So we'll see what the boys are made of, and I know they're going to be ready for the challenge because Garrett and Alec are going to have them ready to go.
You know, that's the thing when I looked at the schedule. A lot of the new, younger teams in the league, they were front-loaded on the first half of the season. You know, there's positives and negatives to backloading the schedule with all the powerhouses, the traditional teams that are always there in the fight. But that just basically means playoff hockey starts after the New Year's break.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's the thing I've been telling all the fans that bring that up to me. I'm like, hey, this isn't a bad thing. You got to play the best, and that's going to get you ready for that playoffs. You know, because the playoffs are a whole different animal. If anyone was here last year to watch it, you know, against Aberdeen, we should have steamrolled Aberdeen last year, and we end up barely winning in 5 games. You know, and you got to get prepared, and you're going to get prepared by playing those Austins and Minots on a weekly basis.
Definitely a little seasoning, toughen up the team a little bit. As far as the roster, and I know you're in the office and listen to the coaches talk, one of the things we always look at, especially at the Christmas break, is, you know, what do we need? Do we need another defenseman? Do we need another forward? Where do we need a little help? I look at this roster and, you know, minus the call-ups and other opportunities for some of the kids, this team's tight, top to bottom. I don't see a hole.
Well, no, and I don't think there is a hole. And Tristan Trevino is going to be back after the Christmas break. You know, we lost Alexander Kim. He is going and playing for Kazakhstan in the World Juniors. Like, what an experience for him, right? You know, and then you got a couple guys that are hurt, but once they all come back, you know, that's one conversation I've had with another employee that's been here for a long time is, okay, so we bring another guy into the fold. Who sits?
Yeah.
Who do you sit down? When we are fully healthy and we have all our lines in place, I honestly don't know if that is a tough conversation to have with a kid that, hey, you've been here all year, but you know what? We got this guy. We're gonna slot him in.
Well, and on top of that, you've been here all year. You've performed how and where we've needed you to perform. Yeah, you can't sit somebody like that because, again, it's about developing the kids and getting them on to the next level. And when you've got a kid that's doing exactly that, you can't sit them. You just can't.
You can't, because when that happens, when you start doing stuff like that, that's when you lose players' interest. That's when you lose the locker room, and that's when a team like we have right now can go downhill in a hurry.
It's a very tight locker room, too. That's one of the nice things to see about the Bobcats this year. You know, year in, year out. That's one of the things, the quality of the kids that are here playing for the Bobcats. The locker room is usually not an issue. It's a good, tight-knit group of guys. New season starts basically New Year's Eve. Of course, the old rivalry that we always enjoy. Oh, yeah. New Year's game, Minot Minotauros.
You know, I'm excited to watch that because last time they were here right before Thanksgiving, it was a tight, tough-fought game, and, you know, they're going to come down here. They're going to want some revenge on us because we beat them here before Thanksgiving, and it'll be fun. It'll be a measuring stick, you know, right after the holiday break. But that night, we're going to have special jerseys that we auction off. I'm going to tell you right now, they're some of the nicest jerseys we've ever had on New Year's Eve. They are going to be glow in the dark.
Ooh.
So kind of a neat little twist there.
Hey, did you ever play night golf?
I did play night golf one time. It was a par 3 course out in Minneapolis, and they had lights on the course.
So maybe you could find some glow-in-the-dark pucks for this.
Yeah.
Shut all the lights off. We got the jerseys that glow in the dark. We got pucks that glow in the dark, and, you know, maybe put some of that glow-in-the-dark paint over the on the lines and around the goal mouth, and that might be a thing.
You mean kind of like the Cosmic Baseball they did last summer?
Exactly.
That was pretty cool.
Glow-in-the-dark hockey. I'm in.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
That would be pretty cool. It's going to be a great series. Always New Year's Eve is a great game with the Minot Minotauros coming to town. Brad Feldman with the Bismarck Bobcats. Of course, this is the home of the Bobcats. Home and away, Super Talk 1270. You can catch all the action right here. And, of course, tickets. Always go online, get your tickets. If you haven't downloaded the Bobcat app, do that as well. BismarckBobcats.com. You can get all the information there. Brad, Merry Christmas, my friend.
You as well, Steve.
This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken. Joining us in the program, Jason from the National Weather Service. All right, Jason, I got to talk to you first about this little cold snap. Quite the little clipper system. Not a lot of snow amounts for the Bismarck Mandan area, but other places across the state, that component of the freezing rain really caused some travel issues.
Yeah, it sounds like we had like a wintry mix there. Anytime you get that on the bare surface, it gets a little slick out there. So hopefully everyone was kind of taking it slow these last few days.
I know over in the eastern part of the state and up in the northeast portion of the state, some snow and some bad travel conditions, but we were spared some of that. But a lot of people starting to travel for the Christmas holidays, and this weekend is a big travel weekend. We do have a little warm-up coming our way, though, don't we?
Yeah, so, currently everyone's probably seeing those cold temperatures below zero this morning, but that'll be short-lived as this weekend, and each day will get progressively warmer, and then we're going to see highs in most areas back in the 30s by the holiday week next week.
So what does that mean as far as precipitation? Because the danger with that is if we do have something go through, it might be in the form of rain, freezing rain, and that could hinder travel.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're still, at least through the weekend, we're still in this northwest flow, which is what we've been in for a while. So you can get a wave or two that comes through there, kind of eyeballing today. If anyone's traveling today, maybe a quick shot of snow. And then next chance is looking like Sunday. And that's a mixed precipitation chance, as like you said, Steve, as we get those warmer temperatures, you got to kind of start worrying about, are we going to get some freezing rain with that or not?
All right, so as we start getting into Christmas itself, what's the forecast leading up? Because a little bit of warmer temperatures, is that going to hold for a while, and what's Christmas look like?
Yeah, so right now, looking at Christmas here, we're still seeing some warmer temperatures, which is nice. So highs, about the 30s or so. Limited chances for precipitation, so that's also good. And then we look even past Christmas. The Climate Prediction Center, they're going above normal temperatures to end the month of December with kind of like a near to maybe slightly above normal chance for precipitation. So it's going to be a little bit different of a Christmas than maybe some of us are used to.
Well, looking forward to some warmer temperatures for sure. As far as this winter setting up, I mean, it seems like we've been a little bit dry. We haven't had the snowfall amounts that we've typically had leading into the holiday season. That's got to affect the drought monitor a little bit, and really we could use some moisture, couldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. This time of year, I think that it would be better if it came as snow so we can hang on to it until it melts, because the ground's pretty much well frozen by now. I know those western areas, they were still kind of struggling, and we could use some snow. But yeah, the La Nina that was predicted is kind of shaping out somewhat like was predicted with, you have kind of a mildish fall, mildish start to the winter. So we're going to have to see if we're going to pay for this later on, early in the spring or later in the winter.
Well, unfortunately, I know a lot of producers out there, farmers and ranchers, really would like some more moisture. And we were kind of dry, which was nice for harvest, but heading into next spring's planting, getting a little moisture into the ground ahead of time is always a good thing. All right, so I'm going to ask you to predict a little bit. You mentioned the La Nina, and that's the kind of the flow pattern we've got set up. For those listeners that don't know, explain that. What is that weather system or that weather pattern that we're into with a La Nina?
Oh, absolutely. So so the weather is kind of all connected across the globe, and so one thing we monitor is surface temperatures of the ocean in the eastern Pacific, and so right now they're a little cooler than kind of average. So we call it a La Nina. Versus when they're warmer, everyone knows the term El Nino. So when we get that La Nina, that jet stream kind of dips a little further south, so we get cooler temperatures, maybe kind of like that northwest flow pattern we've been seeing. Maybe that gives us a little more snow. So that's just kind of the pattern that we're in. But, there's other factors going on, so that's maybe why it's been a little bit drier to start. But we'll have to see, as we're expecting that pattern to kind of take shape for much of the winter.
Typically for us around here, what's the difference moisture content or moisture-wise and those opportunities to get more precipitation in a La Nina versus a La Nina?
Yeah, that's a great question here. So we'll just kind of take a look at the 3-month outlook here. That's pretty much that's fairly well favored for this La Nina pattern. So even if you just look at that from the Climate Prediction Center, you can kind of see that pattern of colder than normal temperatures. That does stick out in La Nina. And then there's just we'd like a little more data for the precipitation. Right now, we have equal chances to slightly above normal chances. So, that just depends on where does that northwest flow kind of set up and where do those clipper waves come through.
All right, so for Christmas, travel, we're going to have some warmer temperatures, but a little bit of precipitation coming through on Sunday. So kind of adjust your travel schedule accordingly, because that, with the warmer temperatures, could be in the form of rain or some freezing drizzle versus some snowfall, which is always a little bit better to travel on than icy roads. So, but other than that, we're looking at a pretty good holiday forecast.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the more milder ones we've had in a while, and depending on how warm we get, maybe some areas aren't as light as Christmas. I mean, some of this recent snowfall maybe kind of melts a little bit leading up in there, so it might be a different Christmas than some remember. And as you said, if you're out traveling, check out our partners at the DOT. They have a very nice app you can download on your phone and give you the latest road conditions. So it's always good to check before you're heading out.
I always like the cameras. I can go, you know what? I'm going to look, and yep, it's snowing there. I'm good.
Exactly. A lot of us need that second reassurance to make sure that what they're putting is correct. And they're usually pretty accurate, but never hurts to check those cameras.
The map's nice, but I really like the cameras. That extra reinforcement's always a good thing for me.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Well, Jason, you have a Merry Christmas, my friend, and we'll talk as we're getting into the new year. And Jason over at the National Weather Service, be safe in your travels, my friend.
Well, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you and all your listeners.
This is Talk of the Town. Jason over at the National Weather Service, setting up to be a pretty nice travel-wise, temperature-wise Christmas, but it's nice we've got the snow, so it is going to be a white Christmas. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
News Talk Bismarck Mandan. Super Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachman, along with Lori Hens from Beck News. You can BeckTV.plus. Follow all things Summit Carbon Solutions, proposed CO2 pipeline, and all kinds of other stuff as well. A lot of great investigative reporting. And Lori, thanks for coming in again this morning. I wanted to pick up where kind of we left off last week. We were talking about in D.C., a bunch of people signing on to some, it's not legislation yet, but it's kind of a precursor.
Well, I can read it to you. This was to a letter to Mike Johnson dated August 6th of this year. And it says, Dear Speaker Johnson, as members of the House Republican Conference, there are 18 of the people who signed this. We write to urge you to prioritize business and market certainty as you consider efforts to repeal or reform the Inflation Reduction Act. So they could smell it coming in August, that if it was a new regime in the White House, that it might be repealed. We agree the partisan process of passing the IRA created a deeply flawed bill that will prevent the development of life-saving cures, empower the IRS to harass small businesses, and distort energy markets.
But we'd like to double down on
However, that's right. That's exactly right.
But
and then 2 paragraphs later, it says prematurely repealing energy tax credits, particularly those which were used to justify investments that already broke ground, would undermine private investments and stop development that is already ongoing. A full repeal would create a worst case scenario where we would have spent billions of taxpayer dollars and received next to nothing in return.
So we want to spend more billions of taxpayer dollars.
Break that down for a moment, right?
And still receive next to nothing.
Exactly. Energy tax credits, they go on to say, have spurred innovation, incentivized investment, and created good jobs in many parts of the country, including many districts represented by members of our conference. No kidding. And then they go on to say, as Republicans, we support an all of the above approach to energy development and tax credits. Watch for that phrase whenever you put your red flag up.
And I apologize, but I used to be an all of the above.
Yep.
And this goes back to 2011, 2012, all of the above. Great. Bring it on. But I've got a caveat with that. And I'm getting away from that methodology and that mindset because it's been bastardized so bad. But I'm about energy innovation. But the caveat for me is 5 years. I'm okay with
sunsets,
cap it, sunset it.
Yep.
Here's your seed money. This could be the next latest, greatest energy innovation. This could be the flux capacitor.
You know that the government doesn't do that, though.
I
Once
know.
something starts, it's in perpetuity.
Well, but that's why
Yes.
you need to put a time. And my rule of thumb is 5 years, because after that, what happens? You've taken the incentive from the private sector to innovate and make sure something's viable. If you're going to just subsidize it, and the 800-pound gorilla in the room, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, especially in North Dakota, is ethanol. If you're going to subsidize, and by the way, people go, oh, there's no subsidies on it. You're right, but a mandate's a subsidy.
Yeah.
Call it what you will, a mandate. When you're mandated to have a certain amount of a product in another product, that's a subsidy. So when you're looking at energy innovation, that all of the above, quote unquote, needs to have a cap on it. Because the biggest detriment is, okay, you're taking the incentive to innovate and make it viable from the private sector, but what else are you doing? You're taking R&D dollars away from something that potentially could be that next big thing.
Right.
Whether it's a hydrogen,
innovation,
a flux capacitor,
whatever
it looks like.
Correct.
There needs to be a timeline on that. It's like, I'm a little okay with, here's your seed money, and this sounds like a good idea, and go start doing the research and the R&D on this, but you have to make it viable.
No,
Simple.
so in this
Pretty
case,
simple.
you're exactly right about it. But as soon as they say we support an all of the above approach to energy development and tax credits, that this is the last part, that incentivize domestic production, innovation, and delivery from all sources. So it's kind of a bait and switch on that.
But how do you innovate domestic anything
and incentivize it
when you're here? We're just going to put you on the taxpayer dole forever, and you don't have to do any of those other things that we're talking about.
Right. Well, this whole letter it's a one-pager. It's very concise. It says, we appreciate your work to unite the conference on this important matter, meaning there are 18 of us and the rest of the conference needs to get on board with us because we say so. Please consider us partners in reforming our tax policies in a way that puts America first while ensuring certainty for industry and the energy sector. Then it is sincerely signed by 18 of these House members, including people. This is where they are from. And I did this last week. This is where they are from. They're from New York, California, Chavez DeRemer from Oregon, Molinaro from New York, Indiana, New York, Virginia, New York, California, Utah, Don Bacon from Nebraska, who fits with the California people, and then New Jersey, Ohio. There's Marionette Miller Meeks from Iowa, Arizona, but Georgia and Nevada. And if you look at where they are from, and you look at these are
supposed to be Republicans.
These are not the conservative people. These are the guys who are there out to try to get things for their constituents in their states of New York and California.
Okay, and this is about energy.
Correct.
With the exception of California, which that's a different animal because of the climate politically there when it comes to oil and gas and energy, although they're one of the biggest consumers of energy. Nobody's from an energy state.
They're really not. That's the interesting part of it. You look at this, Nebraska's kind of in there, but Don Bacon
really.
Is, but not really.
On the ethanol side, not on the actual production of...
And they do have 1 out of 18 from Iowa. 1.
Which I don't know they have any oil or gas wells in Iowa.
Exactly. So these are not energy states.
They're not energy producing states.
No, that's correct.
So blue states for one, and non-energy producing states for another. And I'm throwing California out because that's just a mess. So that's the other takeaway on that. These aren't energy producing states. Where's the Oklahomas and the Texas and the North Dakota and the Wyoming?
Yep,
They're not there.
Yep. No, it's true. You just don't see them. It's just really interesting. I did my homework on this. They don't say what state they're from. I went and assigned the state so that I could figure it out.
Which means they're on the subsidy side.
Correct.
The scam side of, which is kind of around the periphery of energy production.
To me, that letter alone just identified what's going on. I mean, it was very obvious to me after looking at that there is a lobby out there that's jumping on board regarding these tax credits, and that's
where's our free money?
They're
and we're
trying
only $33 trillion
they're trying to
in debt.
protect the tax credits that the Biden administration enforced.
Yeah, we're not in debt, and we're not going to take your tax dollars and give it to. Well, I equate that to non-traditional energy producers, which we need them. We don't need the snake oil salesmen running around trying to collect stuff for their own states that they're not energy producers. They're energy consumers.
Exactly. So I've got North Dakota Industrial Commission information when we come back.
Oh, we got to hear about that. That's coming up next. I'm Steve Bakken along with Lori Hintz from Beck News. You can go to becktv.plus. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Hey.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Lori Hintz from Beck News. You can go to becktv.plus, follow all things Summit Carbon Solutions, proposed CO2 pipeline. And, all right.
On the 12th, the North Dakota Industrial Commission had their meeting. It was really interesting because the time changed 3 times, too, for that meeting. And I don't know what that was all about.
I noticed that. They kept moving that around.
Yeah, it was 1 o'clock, then it was 1:30, then it was 2, then it became 3 p.m. And I thought...
Waiting for Burgum to get here?
I don't know. It was really odd. And maybe one of the other guys had a conflict and had trouble getting there. I don't know. But they did finally start at 3:07 in the afternoon, and they got going, and they just went through... one little item, and then they went right straight to the 3 injection wells that they wanted to permit, and just went right straight through it. And it was fascinating to me because there were such innocuous and unimportant questions asked. There were like 3 questions asked by the commission people of the presenters of their recommendation that they pass it, and it was like they were all quite uninterested in any information. I was kind of shocked. I would have thought that there would have been a little bit more back and forth questioning about what was going on, but apparently it wasn't of interest.
One of the things that and for those that aren't familiar with the North Dakota Industrial Commission, of course, it's the governor, the ag commissioner, and
the attorney general.
Mm-hmm. And it's the most powerful commission in the state of North Dakota. And I throw the Public Service Commission like right below that because it affects people's lives. And the Public Service Commissioners have flat out said, and I will disagree with their interpretation, that in their permitting process, they're not allowed to look at public safety. Okay. There wasn't a single public safety concern, question, anything raised at the Industrial Commission level either. Who's in charge of taking care of North Dakotans? For me as an elected official, it comes back to public safety is number one. I'll jump on board with the property rights and everything else, but your job as an elected official is to make sure that your constituents are safe. Nobody's addressing the public safety issue on the permitting side of this.
Right.
So it's not the Public Service Commission who, if you read, I will say their interpretation says that, no, that is under your purvey. And the Industrial Commission's not addressing it. Who is? Who's in charge of North Dakotans' safety?
And the local subdivisions aren't allowed.
No. They took that away from the local political subdivisions.
Right. That's a great question. Maybe that's not of interest to them either. It appears that is low on the totem pole now. A couple of interesting notes. After the Industrial Commission, and you may have heard by now, the Industrial Commission unanimously approved all of those 9 different items and 3 separate Class 6 injection wells for Oliver and Mercer County and then one little area in Morton County. But At the same time, some interesting things were brought up, and that that leads me to the draft storage facility permit. The case number, by the way, is 30869 for this draft storage facility permit. It was established on April 15th, 2024. And if you look at the draft storage facility permit on page 5, on the top of page 5, it says specifics. It's talking about the operator shall notify the commission at least 48 hours in advance to witness a mechanical integrity test of the tubing casing annulus for the annulus for the injection and monitoring wells. The packer must be set within 100 feet of the uppermost perforation and in the 25 CR-80 casing for the TB Line Gang 1 and TB Line Gang 2 injectors, and 13 CR-80 casing for the Milton Flemmer 1 monitor. That number 13 CR-80 is important because that happens to be...
We've talked about this before.
13 chrome steel. 13 chrome steel you may have heard us talk about previously because that is the same steel that was the steel that failed at the Decatur, Illinois ADM facility just a couple months ago.
And then upon further testing, they found a 100% fail rate with it eventually. Granted, it's over time, but a 100% fail rate in, and I forget which higher education institute. Do you recall?
I don't remember which one it was.
There was a university that did a bunch of studies on this,
and
they found a 100% fail rate.
So 13 chrome steel, people, is what we are getting with our injection wells, and particularly the Flemmer one. So Flemmer 1 monitor and 13 CR-80 casing for the Milton Flemmer 1 monitor. Depending on evaluation, the operator shall run the same test on a 5-year schedule for the TB Line Gang 1, TB Line Gang 2, and Milton Flemmer 1 wells. So 5 years before you have to do the testing again. It's not constant. It's not weekly. It's not yearly. It's 5 years.
The thing with the Industrial Commission on these permits is, for those that don't know, the Public Service Commission, the siting side of it. The Industrial Commission, there's a bunch of different permits that fall under their purvey because it's the injection side, the permitting for the facilities. They're not dealing specifically with the pipeline. They're dealing with all the ancillary stuff that has to go around that pipeline.
So right after the North Dakota Industrial Commission made their ruling on December 12th, that same day there was a news release put out by Dakota Resource Council and Zach Cassidy, and then Bold Alliance, and that's Mark Hefflinger in Nebraska. The pipeline fight continues. It is titled, After the North Dakota Industrial Commission Permits Summit CO2 Wells. The line underneath it says Summit still needs a pipeline state permit in South Dakota. Meanwhile, several court cases are also pending, it says. Bismarck landowners and grassroots advocacy organizers vow to continue fighting after an unsurprising decision by the Industrial Commission. The North Dakota Industrial Commission, comprised, as you said, of Governor Doug Burgum, the Attorney General, and the Agriculture Commissioner, approved Summit Carbon Solutions permits for Class 6 injection wells. Summit's permit in Minnesota was also granted today on the 12th by the state's Public Utilities Commission in Minnesota. Summit proposes to use these wells to inject carbon dioxide captured from 57 ethanol plants across Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, and the Dakotas, a mile underground in Oliver and Mercer counties, beneath the homes of residents and the larger communities. The underground stored CO2 has been associated with potential hazards due to the nature of the chemical, including its corrosiveness and the risks it may pose to public safety. Recently, an underground breach occurred at an ADM-operated sequestration facility in Decatur, Illinois, the first commercial geologic sequestration operation in the United States. CO2 corroded that equipment, allowing the gas to migrate beyond the defined storage zone, narrowly avoiding the acidification of an aquifer that serves as a source of drinking water. Summit proposes to use the same grade material in North Dakota that was corrupted by carbon dioxide at the Decatur facility. Somebody's not paying attention here.
Somebody's not paying attention. Again, who's supposed to be in charge of the public safety side of things? And nobody wants to address it.
Fair question.
Lori Hintz with Beck News. I'm Steve Bakken. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app. Conservative talk without apology. The Regular Joe Show with Joe Gigante. Weekday evenings at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Lori Hintz from Beck News. You can go to becktv.plus, follow all things Summit Carbon Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline. One of the other things with the Industrial Commission meeting that came out, and it was weird because, like you said, they moved the time 3 times. I was trying to juggle around, trying to catch a little bit of it online. I was like, what's going on now? One of the things that came out of it, a lot of things came out of it. One was a report by the CO2 education and outreach team, the project update.
31 pages.
You know, the $300,000 of my tax dollars, your tax dollars.
At work.
At work to re-educate, quote unquote, just build the camps and stick us all in that. But re-educate about CO2. Mm-hmm. It's like, what do you have to re-educate me about? That you're scamming my tax dollars on a federal level to make money, and you don't care about my personal health and safety. That's not
what they're teaching you.
Oh, but I already know that. You don't have to educate me on that. So I want to go through the team because this was, again, the title is CO2 Education and Outreach Project Update for the North Dakota Industrial Commission. And this we talked about it before, $300,000, our tax dollars, going to educate. So it's $300,000 going to support a private industry.
Correct.
There's so many things I applaud.
There's nothing public about this other than re-education of the public.
So here's the team in charge of re-educating us. And this is just a marketing tool. Brent Bogar, project lead, Marty Dahl, senior communications strategist, Heather Severson, media marketing specialist, Cody Schuler, video and digital marketing specialist, Jeff Simon, executive director, Western Dakota Energy, Raquel Strand, communication strategist, Chris Legassi, graphic designer, Mike Witt, web specialist, Elijah Swenson, social media marketing specialist, and Scott Hannon, partner in the Fieldstone Group. And by the way, if you ever look up who the principals of the Fieldstone Group are, you'll see while they're getting the money. Also interesting on this, NDSU Extension, EERC, EdND, which is the Economic Development Association of North Dakota Ethanol Council, Lignite Energy Council, North Dakota Petroleum Council. So this is the team in charge of re-educating us because who's making money off this?
So who's and the EERC and NDSU, are those not state entities that we're also paying for at this point? So we're paying for those people and additionally paying for them to re-educate us.
This is just a money suck like you would not believe. Well, for Kelly Armstrong can't get there quick enough.
I know,
Please.
right? I know.
Just
so true.
You cannot make this up.
There's another portion of this that was really interesting to me. It was kind of micro-targeting. And what they did is they profiled individual people, and I don't know how many are there on there, 16 different ones,
anybody who is opposed to their project
13.
And their money grab.
Yeah.
We've now been categorized.
So these, what they have
done. This is part of their marketing strategy.
This is part of their marketing strategy. They've named the type of person that needs the re-education.
You know who did a marketing strategy like this? the Nazis.
This is really creepy.
This is creepy.
And I'm going to give you some of the names of who they say: Advocate Anna, Activist Sarah, Average Joe, Community Organizer Nancy, Firefighter Carl, Healthcare Laura, Emily and Mark, just two people, Educator Jason, Rancher Rick, and like they put those a little later in the group, Farmer Jack, Retired Gary, and Political Sam. So these people, they have profiled.
We all been profiled.
They have profiled people.
We fall into a category.
That was shocking to me when I saw that, and I understand what they're doing. They're trying to figure out who the quote enemy is that needs re-education, but that was abhorrent.
So they can send different messaging out to. Wait a minute. I think I've seen this before. Isn't that what Summit's been doing? One message in Iowa, one message in South Dakota, one message on their website.
Everybody gets something tailored to them, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's not consistent, which is why everybody's so confused on the...
And concerned. And should be concerned.
Correct. No, that was personas, it says. If you look it up in the North Dakota Industrial Commission docket, you can find it. It was there for everybody to see, and I opened it up and looked at it, and I was surprised, to say the least. That was shocking. I was like, I guess that one over there is me. And what are they going to be targeting? So at least you'll know what's coming, because, if you fit into a quote category, I just thought that was absurd. That was absurd. And my own tax dollars going toward it is not my favorite thing either.
No. There's so many different levels that this is wrong. And I'll put it on another platform. It's wrong, period. It's wrong in North Dakota. This is not how we function in North Dakota. It's never been, nor should it be, how we do business in North Dakota on the backs of North Dakota taxpayers, on the backs of North Dakota farmers, on the backs of North Dakota ranchers, on the backs of North Dakota citizens. This is not the government that is supposed to be representing the people.
How do you feel about being called Rancher Rick or Farmer Jack or Retired Gary or Plant Worker David or Firefighter Carl, Community Organizer Nancy? That just, I couldn't believe it when I looked at that. I was like, okay, I know what they're doing, but I can't believe that they so boldly put that out there for everyone to see.
It's not gender based. It's not anything other than it's carbon bias. You talk about race baiting and gender baiting. It's carbon baiting. I'm like, why is that even a thing?
Yeah, that was really interesting.
I mean, honest to God, that should terrify people.
Yeah.
That your tax dollars are being spent on a covert, and I'll call them covert, quasi hit team to re-educate those that might be opposed, and your tax dollars are paying for it.
And since when in America are we not allowed to have our own free will and free speech and thinking about things on our own?
If the First Amendment doesn't fit into the narrative, we're going to tell you what the First Amendment should be. I'm like, I don't expect this coming from Republicans.
I really don't either.
Supposedly it is.
Yeah, shocking.
There's so many things wrong on so many levels with this, and the one that was missing on the personas is innocuous errand, because there's a lot of people that just don't know what's going on.
And there is a lot of apathy about this. If you look at CO2 like a normal human being does, you don't see any danger whatsoever. The problem is that there is danger when you have over 2,100 PSIG in a 24-inch pipeline around
naturally occurring in the air and out in nature,
0.04% is fine. This is
Yeah.
so high concentration, you asphyxiate if you come in contact with it, and you die. Well, you die at least not super painful death. It's just a quick death.
Yeah, your tax dollars hard to work. Well, you're either going to freeze to death or you're going to suffocate. So, this is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachman, along with Lori Hintz from Beck News. You can go to BeckTV.plus, find all things Semiconductor Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline. One of the things I want to get into, too, a little bit is the timeline, because that's getting more and more important as things are getting pushed back a little bit. And I was reading an article about PHMSA and what they're potentially waiting on. We'll talk about that as well. But one of the things came out in an article, and it kind of cracked me up. I'm like, but good Lord, they're right. We have to inject it, so we'll find out what it can do.
That is not really very comforting.
It's like Obamacare. We got to pass it so we can find out what's in it.
That is frightening. And in addition to that, the fact that people want to use you as a guinea pig is not very comforting. I don't like the idea. I don't know how many times I've heard various ranchers and farmers and people associated with this say, well, what are they? Why are they experimenting on us? Why are we the experiment?
Okay, one of the things because it was in recent timeline. Do you remember when they wanted to do that test boring up near Rugby, North Dakota, and people locally lost their crap because there was a rumor that they were looking at, it's for the oil industry, and they want to do a test well so they can bury radioactive material. And it's like, okay.
I remember.
It wasn't.
It was rejected.
It was rejected.
Soundly.
And actually, I think it would have been the second deepest boring. I mean, the scientific information that would have been found in that would have been amazing. But it wasn't about what people's perception was. I kind of equate this a little bit to that, because locally people went, no, not here. We're not going to put a garbage dump here.
Well, they call it NIMBY, NIMBY, not in my backyard.
But now we've got a scenario where they want to put a garbage dump in North Dakota for CO2. I'm like, there's a little correlation here to me, because it's injection.
Right. And Scott Skokas, who is at the Dakota Resource Council, actually has a quote in the press release that came out the same day as the North Dakota Industrial Commission's decision. And he says, furthermore, recent incidents in Illinois where CO2 leaked underground demonstrate that we do not know enough about this technology to use North Dakota as a testing ground. Even Summit has stated they cannot know the impacts of carbon dumping until they do them. So exactly as you said, we need to pass it to. We need to pass it to.
Could be Love Canal.
Or we could, have problems like they did in Illinois and get really close and maybe to the aquifer, which is really troubling.
2 weeks ago, go back and watch the Burleigh County Commission meeting where
were there Summit people there again?
Was talking about what could happen with the salt water. And, I'm kind of proud of the fact that North Dakota feeds the world. We truly do. 17 commodities, we're the number one producer. What happens if all this salt water gets to the surface because it's pressured out of where it normally exists? Whether that's on a large scale or a small scale.
Does it ruin the soil?
Add salt water to soil, you'll see what happens. What happens when there's a saltwater spill out in the oil patch? I'm
not a rancher, but I do have common sense, and I do realize that
stuff doesn't grow that is consumable in an alkali flat. Period. So I would think anything putting North Dakota agriculture at risk for the sake of a small segment of North Dakota agriculture, one commodity, which, by the way, there's only one ethanol plant in North Dakota to benefit our corn growers.
Yeah, of those 57 ethanol plants? I don't. People
One.
realize that those are not North Dakota ethanol
They're
plants.
not North Dakota ethanol plants.
No, there's one, and it's on the eastern side of the state in Cass County area.
So what farmers are you benefiting? Not ours. Not ours. And by the way, I heard Thorolson might be considering pulling out of that with their ethanol plant because of some of what's going on and lack of information. And there is so many unknowns with this. It's like, hey, we're going to potentially wreak havoc on what could be junk science for the sake of a big experiment?
Well, Summit does continue to face some significant challenges. It encounters multiple permit appeals, local zoning regulations across the 5-state footprint. So various counties are pushing back separate lawsuits. According to this press release, it says separate lawsuits over the Public Service Commission's permitting decision have been launched by landowners and by Burleigh County. Additionally, the Northwest Landowners Association is suing the state over its amalgamation law, which allows the state to take away landowners' mineral rights without the usual legal remedies granted by eminent domain. They view it as a taking, and that's a phrase that everybody needs to get familiar with on this one.
Well,
too.
you might be familiar with a correlating term. It's called theft. So theft, taking, same thing.
Amalgamation.
Yes, theft, amalgamation, taking, they all equate to the same thing.
Now, this was a real interesting release by Hefflinger and also Emma Schmidt, Bold Alliance Pipeline Fighters Director. She says, we never expected any other outcome from this commission, particularly given Governor Burgum's business and political relationship with Summit's major investment partner, Continental Resources. At the end of the day, this predictable decision won't make a difference to the widespread project resistance. We'll continue to do everything we can to topple this stacked deck in order to protect the property rights and well-being of North Dakotans, she said.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Injected, so we'll see what happens.
That's troubling.
Yeah, there are so many different levels of what is going on, and to me, again, it still comes back to nobody's talking about public safety. What about the farmers and ranchers who
are along the route,
or in the injection areas,
right?
And that area is sizable when you start talking about the plume modeling from underground. And what are you displacing that's already there? In most cases, it's salt water. It could be minerals for a mineral holder. Now you're going to take their potential mineral rights away from something else. There's so many pieces of this that just does not fit the fabric of North Dakota. I want to hold you over for one more break, Lori, one more segment, because we still got a lot to cover, and we could probably do 2 hours today on this. But this is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Yo. The Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Jason Spees. You can catch Jason with This Week in Energy, Sunday mornings 10:30 or 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. Well, I guess it goes through 10:30 too, Jason. Also, The Crude Life and multiple platforms, ESG University. And I wanted to get you on a little bit. Of course, big news this past weekend. President Trump, former President Trump, assassination attempt. A lot of conspiracy theories starting now. I wanted to get your take on what some of those are teeing up to be.
Well, thank you for having me on. And the first thing I usually do when I've done these interviews, and I've done 4 of them now, is just to start off by reminding everyone just to take a moment and remember there was somebody who did die, somebody whose family was impacted by this. So as fun as it is to flesh out conspiracies and point blame and ask questions and everything else, keep in mind, people were injured and someone did die. So that brings us to, kind of the conspiracies and what happened and a few other things. When I look at what happened, Steve, this is nothing short of government fail-safes failing. when you take a look at, and you've covered presidential events, I've covered 4. I've covered Bush Jr., I covered Obama, I covered Clinton, and I covered Trump. And so I'm familiar with a lot of the security personnel.
And do you remember exactly where you were when President Reagan was shot?
I was like 10 years old, 9 years old.
Yeah, so was I.
7 years old. I was born in 74, so it was the 81.
Older than
Does that happen?
Yeah, 1980.
Yeah.
So I was in my kitchen. We had the TV on. My grandmother was making dinner, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And
I remember more about buckwheat being shot from SNL than I do about Reagan being shot, unfortunately, with my childhood. So I was more of that. But
I remember where I was. It was one of those bellwether moments in my childhood. I remember everything. I remember, well, okay, so the big ones for me, because I was kind of cognizant at that point, was I remember when Elvis died. I remember when Ronald Reagan got shot, and I remembered when the space shuttle blew up. Those were like the 3 from my childhood, indelible moments you're just not going to get out of your mind.
And this will be one for most people, because really, when you take a look at the media's role in this, when Reagan got shot, for example, it was not wall-to-wall coverage. They went to regular scheduled programming, and there was only 3 television stations, and PBS back then. Fox wasn't even around. And so fast forward to 9/11, boy, it was the CNN channel for about 3 months.
Yeah.
CNN 24/7, just 9/11, and people were staying up all night watching it, missing work, and it was just intensified. Now, that's exactly what's happening on social media. Most people's social media, including Colin Cowherd, who said that they do not like to do politics because he's a sports program, and he was at ESPN when all the sports announcers kind of got political, and he saw the ratings drop every week because people don't tune into sports for politics. But there are certain things that you have to speak of because it impacts the nation as a whole.
Well, I'm glad you brought up 9/11, though, because that was... And the reason I didn't include that, because, first of all, it wasn't my childhood, but there was a turning point, because I want to talk a little bit about the role of the media. Through 9/11, media had started to change a little bit. And then fast forward to where we are now, it's an entirely different platform. It is not the mainstream media from when the Challenger blew up or Ronald Reagan was shot. It's an entirely different animal at this point.
This is a great example because basically a lot of different people that I've been talking to, if they work for the government or are part of, the deep state or whatever you want to call it, they're the first ones to say, well, hey, conspiracy. They're the first ones to say, let's wait for the facts to come out. They're the first ones to say, hold off. Let me tell you the facts when we get them. You ever notice that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, let's take a look at the facts. The facts are that there was someone less than, 150 feet? 150 yards, whatever, 400 feet? So the Secret Service intel is supposed to actually case the perimeter within 1,000. Okay, so what happened there? Do we have to look into the ESG, DEI hiring of the Secret Service agents? Because that is one of the great problems with ESG and DEI was this past weekend, because the first thing that the Secret Service head did was come in and totally revamp Secret Service to be more DEI friendly. And I remember this because there were Secret Service members really upset, saying that this is not a man or woman issue. This is are you above 6 feet tall or below 6 feet tall issue. The reason we hire people that are skilled and have physical attributes is because it is beneficial with protecting someone. But they didn't care. Okay, take a look at RFK Jr. He's not even given Secret Service intel or detail at all. And he's the son of Robert F. Kennedy, one of the most beloved people in U.S. history. So this is an example of how the government can use the public trust and public power as a weapon, because there were so many fail-safes that failed on Saturday that anybody who has any conspiracy, you have every right to hold your government accountable on this. Every right to.
Well, and you don't have to go back that far. Just start, we're not going to get into the politics of COVID, but look at the conspiracy theories with the vaccines, and they've borne themselves out to be true. You don't have to go back very far for an example in how the mainstream media was complicit with that narrative, or whose narrative.
And
now,
Steve, we're not talking about JFK here.
No.
We're talking about the same people that have been giving us extreme misinformation that have cost people lives, that have changed the government. Take a look at locally here.
We need media back.
Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Just take a look at locally. Take a look at the state of North Dakota. Take a look at how the state of North Dakota has handled the tremendous boon that the oil industry has given and the unbelievable amount of federal funds that have come into their coffers. And look at what's happened at the end of the day. You have the state of North Dakota calling landowners dapple jihadis. So this is what you get. This is what you get.
So from a trusted news source, and we all know who we're talking about here, that, shall we say, inner circle has destroyed what used to be a credible news source, and because they wrote the check. They just wrote a check for an agenda.
The inner circle or dirty dozen of the state of North Dakota has absolutely destroyed the media and has destroyed many businesses and lives. And it's no different than what happened on Saturday. In fact, the last time that I went off about how the dirty dozen and the inner circle in the state of North Dakota has destroyed so much of the public trust and so much of the media. Not even a week later, Kevin Kramer's son kills a policeman. And there has been almost zero discussion about that at all. In fact, the last I checked, the media was trying to frame that Kevin Kramer was the victim in this. So that's exactly what's going on here, is that you have a group that is abusing the public trust and the government so much that whether it's an anhydrous ammonia leak, whether it's a state trooper dying, or whether it's the president of the United States, former, with an assassination attempt, these are all fail-safes that fail. But they're done on purpose behind the scenes.
This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Jason Spees. You can catch Jason Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Brad Ogg, General Manager at the Cool Running, 701 South Washington in Bismarck. Brad, okay, you had the 10% sale on top of everything clearance. It didn't matter what it was, 10% off. That was pretty cool. Did a little shopping myself yesterday. And now you've got the 12 days of Christmas. Tell us about that.
So, yeah, every day we've got a new deal up front. So yesterday, I think they had one of the DeWalt, I think it was the Impact driver set.
It was.
Yesterday, up half off yesterday. Today we got a clam hat for $10. We got a DeWalt knife for $10. We got tow ropes for $15. There's ice fishing sleds in here on the, December 20th. We got the Outdoor Revival tumblers, and those are only $7. I mean, every day now through Christmas, we will have a deal up there. And then the final day, the day before Christmas, we got 16 packs of batteries half off.
Oh, nice.
Up front. So,
those are always
they're
good.
loading us up with a couple hundred of those bad boys to take care of that event. But no, it's fun. They're doing all sorts of different things to drive traffic into the stores. The everything's on sale thing yesterday was insane in here.
Yeah, Wendy and I popped in, and it was absolutely nuts. I was like, okay, I got to go in because I got to get my gloves and something else. And she had to get up some, she's doing all her Christmas baking right now, so she needed some baking supplies. We had to go to the little nut aisle and get some walnuts that are always on sale, and great price for that. And then she was putting a little gift basket for a sick friend. So we went into Candy Cove. It was like, we had a date day, Brad. It was a date day.
I like it. I did Candy Cove. I was in the Nutcracker with the kids this past weekend. And the ballet comes with something called Merit Gifts, where it's just like a good luck deal, and they give each other little gifts. And my gift to the adult dressing room was a humongous old-fashioned candy basket. And it was kind of a trip down memory lane for some of us. They had a blackjack gum in there and the little dot things and butterscotch. There was all sorts of crazy good things going on in that basket. So we all had a lot of fun, and I was able to check in. The store was really good at sending me updates yesterday where we're at and how it's going. And it was all around a great weekend.
Although I have to admonish my wife a little bit because the two things I went in there for was a cream soda out of the...
Oh, Shasta was on sale, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was $3.99. I forgot. And what's nice about this sale is it runs all the way through Christmas. So this thing we had now, we activated on the 13th. It was the 13th. It was Thursday or Friday last week, and this ad runs through Christmas Eve. So we don't have to change any signs. We just get to focus on selling.
And my cream soda, which is not on sale that often, but I always stock up when I do, and it was another 10% off. It was kind of cool. And I got yelled at for grabbing another pair of gloves out of the glove bin that was such an incredible deal, which is still there, $9.99. But she's like, "You have enough gloves. You never have enough gloves. You just
not
don't.
for
No.
not for $8.99. You don't.
No. So
it was another 10% off.
Yeah. So, and she appreciates my bargain shopping.
Maybe not in the moment, but she does.
Yeah, not in the moment. Definitely not in the moment. One of the other things, too, and we haven't had a whole lot of use for them yet, but as I was walking around, I did notice you are very well stocked on snowblowers.
Yeah, we did get a few more in. So we had, let's see, when was that last? It was November. We had a little bit of snow, sold through quite a few. And then we got restocked. So we're back in business. We even got a couple Husqvarnas on sale this week.
I noticed that.
You got to come on in and pick what you want.
That price was incredible. And, I was thinking about just upgrading because I've got a little bit older snowblower. It's in great shape, but I want the big light so I can do it in the dark. I really do.
Yes.
And I don't have that on mine.
And they're all the LED lights now. So,
I know.
they are pretty bright. They're getting through. One thing that really surprised me is we do carry, we're out again, but a DeWalt 60-volt cordless snowblower. And I have to be honest, I was really hesitant when we got that in. Like, is that really going to handle North Dakota well? And we sold our first two in the first week. Then we got two more in. We sold them within the first week. We got two more in, and we sold them. So we told these guys, you guys got to come back and give us some feedback after, so after that October one, the one guy came in and he was pretty impressed, he's like, well, it takes 2 batteries. He goes, I did all right. He goes, honestly, it exceeded my own expectations. So we got 6 of them out there. So we're going to have these guys come back and tell us how they run. But it was really it was interesting to see snow blowers getting into the cordless battery market.
I just had this thought. If we get a great big snow dump, because January, February, March, we get that heavy snow, you could do a demo day and get people just to clear your lot out for you.
Ooh, I like where you're going with that.
Yeah, I see how that works.
Yeah.
But I was in picking up a new steel shovel because I like a good steel shovel for getting all the ice off the driveway and off the sidewalks, and I kind of wore mine out. It was 30-some years old, and hey, with 10% off on top of it, came in, boom, new shovel, good to go.
Yeah, we have 2 shovels we use for the store. One of them is the Dakota Blade.
Got that.
Because
I got that last year.
It's a quick removal, but then the second one is a steel shovel. Having that blade, especially if it starts to freeze a little bit, because, the last thing we want is ice out in front of our doors. And that steel shovel, that's a good one. It can really get down and scrape and get stuff up. So those are our 2 go-to in store, Dakota Blade and the steel shovels.
Well, it was funny because I was waffling over the snow blade in the steel shovel last year because I knew I had to replace the steel shovel. I was like, I'm going to try that. I'm like, why I didn't get one of those 30 years earlier is beyond me. But I use that more than my snowblower because it's quicker and easier by the time I pull the snowblower out.
Well, yeah, what is probably 20, 28, 30 inches wide, probably at least. I don't know if it's quite 3 feet. But all you do, you get to the end, you just flip it over, and then you just go back down the line. It's one of those no-brainer, shovels. You have a decent-sized driveway. You only got an inch of snow. This thing will clear it in no time.
Beautiful, Brad. 12 days.
We'll let you demo that. If you come when it's snowing a little bit, we got one out front. You just grab
there you
it,
go.
get a little feel out in the front of the store. We're good like that.
Employees would love that. I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
I always grab carts when I'm going back into stores. So it's like I park by the cart corral because I know if I have to have a cart, I'm going to have to dump it there anyway. But I pay it forward because if there's a couple carts in there, I always bring them in with me.
And then you have one, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
Ironically, it's the little things in life. We got these new feed carts. They're flatbeds, and they nest into each other, so they take up very little room. We're very excited to have 8 more feed carts join our store's inventory of flatbed carts, but they all nest into each other, and it's really cool. But it's the little things that make us really happy. It
truly is.
Nesting flatbeds and letting customers test drive Dakota Snowblades. That's where we're at right now.
I love it. 12 days of Christmas going on now. Something different every day up until Christmas. Make sure you stop in at the Cool Running 701 South Washington in Bismarck. Brad, you have a great day, my friend.
Hey, you too. Thanks, Steve.
Brad Ock, General Manager over at Runnings on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.